Okay, in a separate file, now I'm going to build the sculpture, and I will eventually copy and paste it into the stage file. So the first thing I want to do is create a base for my sculpture. So I'm going to start with a cylinder. I'm going to resize that, make a nice big base for it. Then I'm going to duplicate it, Control D, and then with that duplicated cylinder, I'm going to make it thinner and taller here. Now I'm going to duplicate that as well and create another cylinder here. And again, I just click Control D on the selected object and it makes a duplicate, and you can resize it. Now I'm going to add a cone to this, and if you look closely, you'll see the cone is a little bit bigger along the edges where it joins the cylinder. So I'm going to go from a top view and try to match that width up to the cylinder's width, or I should say circumference. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Looks like the sizes are matching up. So now I'm going to duplicate the pyramid, Control D, or the cone, excuse me, and I'm just going to rotate that on one of the axes, to the best of my eye, and just kind of line it up on the bottom as well. Okay, and so we have this kind of starting shape here on the base. Next thing you can do is you can group your objects if you want. I'm going to select all three of these. Let me try that again. Just draw a selection around all of them and then click the G button, and now these will act as one object. So that's kind of cool. So now I can rotate all three of these at once. They'll go the same way. They'll resize together. And now my object is rotated on the base here. And let me stretch it out a little bit. I'm going to change that to object space maybe. There you go. Now it'll stretch, skew a little bit. That's fine. Okay, so there you go. There's the beginning of the object, and those three are grouped together as one just by clicking G. Again, you can rotate it around, look at it in different angles to see what you might like best when you add it to your stage. So I'm just experimenting here. It looks like a missile. Okay, here I'm adding another cone, but I'm going to make it very skinny and very pointy. I'm going to have some spikes kind of jutting out of this thing just to keep going, give it some unity of shape there. Since I'm already using the cones, I'm going to keep going with that shape. And here I'm just playing around with the positioning. I've got the objects moving around very strangely. Once you're at a different angle here in object space or world space, things can get kind of strange. So again, I'm just positioning this till I find a spot where I'm comfortable. Then I'm going to rotate it. Okay, so I just push Control there, and I can rotate this object and move it around some more. So I want this to jut out of the other object there at an angle, obviously. That's kind of cool. Look at it from the other side here. And I don't know, let's see if I can get it to jut out from the other side, or pointing out the other way. So again, move it into position here. I want to rotate that some more too. So it can take a while to get the object in place the way you want it. And again, I encourage you guys to use, by all means, use multiple angles. Here I'm just using the the trackball here, but look at it from as many different angles as you can so you can see if your objects are in the right place or not. If you're looking at it from one angle, you may think it's in the right place, and then when you render it out or look at it from another angle, you realize it's completely off. So there I duplicated the cone here. I'm going to have another one jutting out, but I'm going to make this one smaller as well. Whenever I duplicate, I try to turn them at different angles, make one smaller than the other, just to give it some variety, so they don't look like the exact same duplicates of each other. Okay, so that one's going to be a little bit smaller. That one will be a little longer. So now we have a couple of points jutting out there. So let's take a look at it with the light on it more. So there you can see they're joining the other object, the cylinder, and the other two cones that I grouped together. So it's looking pretty good from this angle. Let's try the trackball and we'll see if we can line these up a little better. So I'm just looking at it from the top. And I don't want the shorter one to jet out further than the other, so I'll bring that one in a little bit, rotate it out some more, and just kind of, that's looking pretty good. Okay, and now I'm going to group those two together. Click G. And now I'm going to duplicate that pair and then put another pair on the other side. So I'm moving this duplicate over to the other side so we have a little bit of a unity here of shape too, also coming out the other side. Okay. So now we have two sets of these things jutting out. So it's looking kind of interesting with all the spiky cones coming out of it. So here I'm just selecting, now I'm duplicating the middle cylinder there. You can do that by ungrouping the objects again, or you can control click on any object, even if they're grouped, and you can select individual objects. Again, if you go over an object with your arrow, hold down control and then left click, it'll give you a list of objects to select from. You choose the right one and you can select that object and give it a texture or manipulate it. It's a really nice feature. Control and then click on the object and you'll be able to select it. So there I just added a couple of rings by just duplicating that cylinder and then resizing them. So it's kind of starting to look interesting, kind of industrial. Looks like military hardware or something. So I'm going to create another set of spikes on the other side. And rotating these can be a bit of a trick if you're not sure which way they're going. Just take your time, be patient, and you'll get it right. So I'm just checking all my points to see which way would be the logical rotation. That looks about right. So I'm going to move that into position kind of in the front of the sculpture. Now it's cutting into the rings there on top, so I'm going to move it around. And again, positioning these objects probably is one of the most time-consuming portions of modeling something. That's where the patience has to come into play. This is not for the type A personality, I guess. Okay, so again, I'm just rotating here and trying to get the objects in a position in a way that I like them. Again, it's not quite away from the rings enough, so I want to bring it closer to the outside of the cylinder there. Let's see if just by rotating I could see that it was off. It wasn't even touching the cylinder. Now it's touching the cylinder, but it's not far enough over towards me here where I'm sitting, so I'll make some adjustments there. That might do it. Maybe a little more over there. Okay, at least now they're touching the outside cylinder and not the rings, which is nice, but let's see if I can do a little more here. So here I just duplicated the two again. I'm just going to add one more set of these cone pairs over there, so we have a bit of unity here all the way around. And now if I go in close here, I can select an object and then zoom in, and it'll zoom right in that area where that object you've selected is. So that's kind of nice. So I selected the central ring there, and notice it zooms in right on it. I can group those together if I want to make those one, and just move them around here if I need to. Okay, so I just grouped them, and so I could move them. And I'm going to try to move these closer to the center like the other two, just to kind of set them up in a nice even position here, so they're all kind of in the same place, or similar anyway. And maybe I'll resize this ring. Now notice these are grouped together, so resizing it's going to be a trick here. But let me move this into position a little more. There's not much I can do here when they're grouped together as far as resizing. You can try, but see how frustrating it can be. There's no control point. So the best way to do it is to ungroup them. Here they're still grouped here. So again, I'm going to click U, and I'm just going to select one of these. Okay, and I can hit tab, and you'll go through all the objects till you come across the object you want. And now I can just resize that one cylinder. Okay, and then again I can tab through, hit tab until I get to the other cylinder, or I can hold down Control and then click on it and select the right object. In this case I was just tabbing because that was the first thing I thought of. So that's looking kind of cool right there. I like that. So, oh, here's another thing I wanted to show you. I selected the cylinder. Now see these little arrows up here. If I hold the mouse down and click on another primitive, it's going to change the object automatically. So again, those two small white arrows up above on the top of the screen, click and hold the mouse down, then select another object, and it'll change whatever object you have into the object you selected. By the way, I turned it into a pyramid, and then I duplicated the pyramid and rotated the duplicate. Okay, and there's your object. So I'm going to go ahead and make the pyramids underneath a little bit larger. So again, I control click, select one of the pyramids, and then select the other. And now I've grouped them together. I've grouped the two pyramids underneath together. And I'm going to make that larger. So first I want to group the sculpture together as well. So I select everything on the sculpture, click G, and now that's one object because I've grouped it together. So now I'm just going to resize the pyramid, bring the object down on it, render it, and now I'm ready to save it to be copied and pasted into my stage. Okay, so now I'm going to select everything, the stage and the base and the sculpture, group that all together. And so that's what I'll be importing into the stage, in the stage file, is the object and the base together as one. And notice it's behaving as one object here. And so that's how you can build a sculpture outside of the stage area. And then in the next video demo, I'll show you how to copy and paste it and finish the sculpture.